I'm tired of being humble, let me get to it. That motivation music, get control of your life, don't let nobody else do it. Cause when I gon' have match S550s cruising. Feel like you winning on the ground.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. Now, I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like or you dislike, or you just want to get a hot take off, go ahead, shoot us a quick take on the voicemail line. That's 219-413-9405. And of course, we will play your take back on our next episode. And then speaking of episodes, shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Get $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use the promo code The Run Podcast. Now, this code can only be applied for first-time users on the mobile app or website, so I don't know about you, but it's a lot of concerts and stuff going on right now. And as you know, the NFL season is literally right around the corner, so use that promo code and go ahead and get those tickets. Now, however, we got somebody, they left a voicemail, so we're going to jump straight into it. And then we got, obviously, the AFC West and East predictions coming up. I've pretty much done everybody else in terms of the predictions in the NFL of who's going to win what in what division. So we'll also recap some of those too, since this is what the voicemail kind of pertains to. But I'm not going to hold you any longer. Let's go ahead and just play it back. Let's hear what he had to say about something that I was possibly saying. So let's do it. Let's hear what we got.
Okay, this is Braylon. I messed up the first time with the voicemail, but after listening to your podcast, I am a little worried about the Bengals defense in terms of...
let me get him some audio, man. The audio. Well, why is audio so low? Because I'm sure you probably can't hear it, but let's see. Let's see if any of this works here. If not, whatever. You'll just got to listen to it on the podcast version. Worst case scenario. But, crank your TV up for 1 minute, so you'll be fine. It's all good.
Okay, this is Braylon. I messed up the first time with the voicemail, but after listening to your podcast, I am a little worried about the Bengals defense in terms of them competing with the other teams in the AFC, like, again, the Steelers, Ravens, Chargers. I remember when I was watching those games, their defense gave up a lot of points, and it took the Bengals to come back at the end of the game just for them to lose by, sometimes a field goal, sometimes an incomplete pass by T. Higgins or Marshall, just as an example. So I do want to hear, how do you feel like the Bengals can compete with those teams if their defense cannot stop them when it matters the most? And also, I do think our Falcons can win the NFC South, but I am concerned about our linebacker depth and our corner room. But overall, I do feel like Michael Penix can lead us to the promised land of getting us to the playoffs for the first time since 2017.
Okay, bet. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. All right, I'm going to address two different things because you started off, you threw two things at me. So we'll start with the Cincinnati Bengals thing. As you mentioned, how can I expect them to compete when they don't have a good defense? And I think they continue to compete in the AFC like the way they've been doing the past few years, just heavily reliant on that offensive end. I mean, you mentioned the previous games last season. They obviously got swept by the Ravens last season, but both of those games came down to the wire, and it really could have went either way. You look early on in the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. That was another game where a lot of people honestly think they should have won, but they kind of got robbed out of it by some last second no calls, things like that. It was a lot of games. Even the Commanders game came down to the wire. Bengals was right there. They lost by, I think, 5 or 6 points. So there's multiple games where they was right there to win, but they just couldn't get it done. And the only way they can overcome this issue with the defense is Joe Burrow is going to have to throw for 400 yards. Jamar Chase is going to have 100+ receiving yards. They just going to have to be an offensive firehouse. They just going to have to be a powerhouse on the offensive end, the same way they've continued to be over the past 3 years. I mean, because in reality, they haven't won any of them games. Like the back end of the season, when we look at that last stretch of the 5-game win streak when they were going for the playoffs, they really did not do anything where it was like, okay, the defense is locking up or nothing like that. No, it was all offensive firepower. Obviously, the schedule is a little bit easier too on the back end, but coming up, man, in 2025, oh my gosh, Bengals, they got some dogs to play in 2025 for this season, and I'm actually share it with you so you can see it on the streaming. Then you can take a look at it too, later on YouTube for anybody who's listening to the podcast version. But man, the Ravens they play Bengals they play some dogs, man. I'm telling you. So you look at the schedule here. And you see everybody they got. This is just ruthless. I'm looking at it. Obviously, you come out against Cleveland, division game, anything can possibly happen. The last few years, Cleveland has actually given them a run for their money in that opening week. So a lot of people think, oh, this is, an easy start to the season where the Bengals play the Cleveland Browns. But you just got to kind of look at the history of what's been going on in the previous openers against the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns have honestly showed up and been the better team, whether they were on the road, whether they were at home. So you cannot count that out. Couple weeks later, you got Minnesota. Denver is now competition now. You got the Lions, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, New York might be good. The Bears might be good. Pittsburgh again, New England, the Ravens. This back half stretch, it ain't gonna be no early type of playoff push for late season playoff push for the Bengals. This year, the Bengals will not be able to do that last minute playoff push type of stuff because the schedule will not allow them to do that. If you look at everyone they go against in this season, the last 5 to 6 weeks will be harsh for the Cincinnati Bengals. You got the Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens again, Miami Dolphins, which is tameable, but then Arizona Cardinals, and then another division game in the Cleveland Browns. You never know what they're going to do. So just this back end stretch, and that's a rough stretch between Ravens, Bills, Ravens again. Oh, man. That's going to be rough. So I think the only way the Bengals can overcome this lack of defensive effort, or not even effort, I should say, the lack of defensive personnel maybe, is they just going to have to be an offensive powerhouse. That's it. That's the only way they will be able to have some sort of success. And I think it's possible because they've done that over the past couple of years, but it won't be easy. And then I also want to address rise up, because I love what I hear from Atlanta Falcons fans, man. It's amazing. It's amazing. So you mentioned that Michael Penix can definitely lead us to the promised land, first time since 2017. I would love for that to be the case. I 100% agree with you. I think the Falcons have the roster, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. We got some new young talent, new coaching, obviously offensive or a defensive coordinator who's throwing some new schemes on the defensive end. And I think these new pass rush schemes is going to be the pivotal point and the pivotal difference maker between last year and this year. So I'm loving everything I'm seeing so far in training camp and all of that. Trying not to get too hype about it because it really doesn't matter in retrospect because the season hasn't started. But ultimately, Penix, he's got to be solid. I'm still happy we got Kirk to be the backup because you just never know in a long season. And man, I think I don't want to get hype about it. And a lot of people, I'm going to sound crazy and I'm going to just sound like a real Atlanta Falcons fan as I say this. But truth be told, man, it feels a little bit different with this Atlanta Falcons team, man. I know I've said this years before. I know a lot of people are going to make fun of me for it. But genuinely, bro, just seeing the different intensity from training camp and the different schemes, I cannot emphasize the different schemes that we're throwing on defense compared to last year. We got absolutely no pressure on other teams' quarterbacks last year. We were 31st in sacks last year from what our defense could get. And now we have a completely new pass rush scheme, completely new personnel in that front seven. So I'm just saying, man, I don't want to get too hype about it. I try to stay level-headed, but seriously, it feels like the Falcons have some sort of different energy going on in this training camp, personnel-wise, offensive-wise, chemistry-wise. It just seems a little bit different, and they have the talent to do it, but obviously winning in the NFL is hard, no matter who you're playing against, no matter which week you have, at beginning, end of the season, middle of the season. It's going to be difficult all throughout the season. So I don't want to get too hype. I just want them to go out there, perform, and take it week by week, win these ball games. But above all, man, I think they can definitely make some noise. And I appreciate you for calling as well, man. I don't know if I even said that. Usually I always try and emphasize that, I appreciate whenever somebody calls up here. And I try and play the take back. But let's do a quick recap of the division winners I had, and then we'll jump to the East and West of the AFC. So starting off, man, I gotta go back and even pull this up. But we had a lot of different division winners. So I put also different polls on Instagram and stuff because I wanted to get people involved. I wanted to kind of hear the things that they thought about who would win and which team is this and which team is going to do that in the division. So I'm excited about all those different things. So I'll share some of those with you as well. And to start off with what I had in some of these divisions is the NFC South. I'll start with the NFC South. Now, I'm sure you probably already know by now. In the NFC South, I predicted the Atlanta Falcons to win that division. Now, a lot of people wasn't really agreeing, but a large majority ended up going with the Atlanta Falcons as well to win the NFC South based on the polls that I did put up there. But it was close with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So other than that, I go to the NFC North with the Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, and the Minnesota Vikings. And a good amount of people, pretty much everybody, chose the Detroit Lions. Of course, they're the popular vote right now. And then I go over to, I had the NFC, what else did I have? I got to find the picture of when I voted on it. But I had a couple of different options here. I picked the NFC West, of which team that people thought was going to win that division. A large majority voted for the Seahawks. It kind of wasn't even close. And then the NFC East was just easy. Everybody picked the Philadelphia Eagles. It wasn't much competition there. But in the AFC, we got a little more competition on who chose who to win each division. Now, with the AFC North, a lot of people ended up voting on this one. And in the AFC North, we had a large amount of people actually choose the Baltimore Ravens. But we had a good amount choose the Bengals. But ultimately, the Ravens ended up winning in the votes there. Now, then we had the NFC or the AFC East, AFC West, AFC East, which I'll touch on in just a sec. But the others was the AFC South. The AFC South was the one I had here. And pulling it up, man, it looks like a lot more people ended up voting for the Tennessee Titans to be the underdogs, but ultimately 80% chose the Texans to win that division. So it wasn't much going on in there. It wasn't very close. And then East and West, most people predicted the AFC East to go to the Buffalo Bills. And then AFC West, most people picked the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll tell you about who's really going to win in those divisions and who you should stay tuned for. But don't go anywhere. Look, we'll take a quick break and then we'll jump into those division predictions in just a sec. So we'll be right back. We'll take a quick break and then we'll jump into it. It's halftime. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. I appreciate you tuning in. Leave us a quick take on the voicemail line, 219-413-9405. And look, let's get into it. So the AFC East and the AFC West predictions. So these are the last predictions I have for the division winners. And let's just go ahead and start with the AFC North, the AFC West. So the AFC West, you got the Kansas City Chiefs, Denver Broncos, Chargers, Las Vegas Raiders. Now, before you even start to wonder what other team in the AFC West will win, let me just feed you some of these little simple statistics here. And one of the biggest statistics that you can't help but to notice is that the Chiefs have won the last 9 of 10 division championships in the AFC West. They've dominated this division year after year after year. Pat Mahomes clearly has all 10 fingers all over this division. He has his arms around this division. This is Pat Mahomes' division. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the Denver Broncos, they're coming up. And, the offense is going to be nice this year. They already had a defense, and the defense was this and that. They were number 5, and they were top 5 in this. The Broncos are a good team. They're a solid team. They're nice. And anything can happen when it comes to division play. But ultimately, nobody in the AFC West is beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't even think that's a debate or discussion. I know it's some fans out there in the AFC West that, of course, is hopeful for their team. But above all, I haven't seen anything from the Kansas City Chiefs that have me convinced that they will end up slipping up and losing this division. Because Broncos, yes, they have a nice squad, but beating the Chiefs is no easy task. It's tough to do that, especially in games that are the most meaningful. Anybody can win, obviously, early on in the season. But when teams are neck and neck and you have to win to secure the division, that's when the Kansas City Chiefs usually always somehow win. And then you can't forget about their 12th man on the field, the referee there. you gotta love that. The referee always show up. The Chargers, we did have a couple people vote for the Los Angeles Chargers to win this division. Look, man, AFC West Chargers fans, please stop it, man. Jay Herbert, I know he's talented, but he's, to me, in the same conversation of Trevor Lawrence and stuff like that. Right now, he ain't got enough offensive weapons to even make anything happen against the Kansas City Chiefs, especially when you talk about division play. And I think they're probably the third team in the running behind the Broncos, if that. But maybe even you have to consider the Raiders, because now they got Geno Smith at quarterback and they still got the great duos of tight ends over there. So the Raiders definitely have some talent. But ultimately, despite the Raiders' talent of getting Geno Smith, despite the Broncos having some new offensive power and being a solid defensive team, and despite the Chargers having Harbaugh and no offensive weapons, but somewhat of a decent defense, none of these teams in the AFC West are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Period. Kansas City Chiefs will be divisional champions once again, and this will be their 10th straight divisional win. This is another dominant performance from Pat Mahomes. I think that's just what we're going to come down to witnessing. But above all, it's not really a discussion, man. Pat Mahomes got this division locked up easily. Now you move over to the AFC East here. In the AFC East, some people consider it to be competition over here in the AFC East, but Joe Burrow, you don't have Joe Burrow, I'm sorry, Josh Allen. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have won 5 of the last 10. I'm pretty sure it was 5 straight. Starting in 2020, a year after Josh Allen was drafted. The Buffalo Bills easily have this division wrapped up. A lot of you guys voted for the Buffalo Bills to win this division. I think you're absolutely right, man. Winning 5 years straight in this division shows nothing but dominance. And then I know they got the Miami Dolphins over there, the Jets and the Patriots. But let's be real, man. The Dolphins are not a factor. I'm pretty much done with the Dolphins and believing anything that they can do come postseason or even midseason and end of the regular season, because McDaniels has been there for about 5 years and he still hasn't done anything yet to win a playoff game, yet to get some wins in the playoffs, despite all the talent he's had over there in Miami. So to me, it's looking like they need to start going into another direction with the Miami Dolphins, but I don't have any belief in what they can do and possibly dethroning the Buffalo Bills. Anytime they match up, it is good football, but ultimately we all know at this point the Dolphins cannot play football in cold weather. So if they go over to the Buffalo Bills home field, they are not going to win. And then also the Jets, they're still really, really young. They got a lot of talent over there, but first year with the new coach and new quarterback, I think they'll have some feathers to ruffle over there, but they definitely won't win. And then the Patriots, let's just keep it a buck about the Patriots, man. They haven't won a division since Tom Brady, and I don't think this will be the year where that changes. Yes, they have some new talent, did some great things in the draft pick, had an actual great offseason, new head coach, all of that. Like, I love the moves that they made, but this isn't going to put them in competition to win the division. Not yet. Give it maybe 3 more years, and then the Patriots can get back to division championships, maybe. But above all, man, this is just an easy choice here. The Buffalo Bills is 1,000% going to win this division. Yeah, you got the Dolphins, but the Dolphins just ain't going to make nothing happen. They continue to fail and continue to disappoint. Other than that, Patriots still young, Jets still young, got some ways to go before we consider them dominant in this division or serious competitors to take the throne in this division. Let's go on to the Buffalo Bills, though. Other than that, man, look, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, of course, and then I got to leave you on a positive note here. The positive note for today is just going to be as simple as take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Do what you got to do to make sure you are okay. A lot of times we don't give that same grace to ourselves. We do nice things for other people. We try and make sure people we love are straight. We try and make sure people we care for are taken care of, which is lovely and which is great. It says a lot about you as a person. But ultimately, you got to make sure you take care of yourself as well. And sometimes invest those kind actions into yourself. Invest those kind actions into making sure that you are okay. Do something nice for yourself. Because we always worry about other people and making sure they're good and, want to make sure they're taken care of. But take care of yourself. So that's a positive note, and that's all I got for y'all. So I appreciate you if you've been kicking it with me. Share this with a cousin, a brother, an aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, coworker, friend, family member, anybody you know, all of them, actually, everybody I name. I promise you they not going to mind, man. You just shoot it their way and be like, hey, he was talking about your division. What you think? They not going to care. Literally the worst case is they just won't listen to it. And that's fine. So send it their way, man. I appreciate you either way. We will be back later on next week. Y'all have a great weekend. I know this episode came a little late, but it was, man, just crazy week for me. And that's where the message of, take care of yourself comes from, because crazy week for me. So that's what I had to kind of revert to and try and tell myself at times. Other than that, man, that's all I got. So I appreciate y'all. We will be back later on next week, and so on and so on and so on.